Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So we're going to discuss how to draw a double portrait. Um, it's very similar to a single portrait, but there are some key differences that I think will help. So with any portrait, I like to start with the darkest parts, which is usually the eyes, and then I work on the eyebrows and then nostrils, mouth, so on and so forth. Just getting all of the dark areas laid out. You'll notice to start off with as well, that I had a detailed sketch. It's very important that you have a detailed sketch to start off with. Um, and I have another video explaining how to set out a portrait in proportions and get a really detailed sketch. So if you're unsure, make sure you check that out. So again, I'm just working my way around, plotting out where the darkest parts go, just working on one portrait at a time. Although it's a double portrait, I like to get one portrait 90% done before I move on to the next one. Um, and then it's important to, once you've moved on to the next one and you've got that one 90% done as well, to then go back and reevaluate your values. It's just trying to keep everything in balance, trying to make things darker where they need to go darker, but without going too dark. And it's just looking at the reference image. Again, if you want realism, you really need to be working off a reference image. And I like to use a brush as well as pencils, as I'm here. That's with graphite powder, but I also use a brush to brush around and smooth out once I've laid my pencil down. I use different blending methods. I use a brush, a soft brush, or a blending stump, or some tissue. Tissue's really good for getting nice skin tones. Then just working on the neck again, making sure that my edge to values are in the right place. And I haven't got any just lines that don't make any sense at all. You need to make sure that you've always got a gradation working away. Um, and again, on the clothes, making sure that my edge to values are where they are and that everything makes sense. Again, this is not going to be finished. This is just up to 90% where everything needs to be. And then I will go back over once the other portrait is done and make sure that when I put my finishing touches on, it's all in balance. So now moving on to the hair. Hair, I like to go straight in with my 2B, um, because it's dark. You can see that it's obviously a lot darker than his face. I don't like to overwork it too much, so I like to get some value in there straight away. And hair is very awkward. It's one of the it's one of the more difficult things to master. Um, you need to pay close attention to your reference image, and you need to view the hair in clumps rather than strands. If you try to draw the strands of hair, then you're never ever going to get hair that looks like hair. You need to view it in clumps. Um, and then again, once you've got, like now, I've got everything laid down where I want it. I'm going to go over and darken it, darken the areas that need to be darker. Um, and that is all you do. You just keep following the reference image. Look which way the hair's going. Make sure you're following the same direction, and pick out the highlights where you need to pick out the highlights. Get the darks as dark as they need to be, and yeah, you just need to keep working it. Like I say, hair is so awkward, but you will get there the more you practice and the more you work it. And again, it's remembering the laws of light and edge to values. You still get edge to values in hair, so you'll still have hair sitting on top of other hair. And when you can see hair behind other hair, you need an edge to value because something is disappearing behind something else. So you need to pay attention to edge to values and gradations and stuff as well when you're doing hair. And yeah, just keep working it, keep working in the same direction the hair's growing in, and eventually it will come together. It's like I always say, it's just about layers. It's getting as many layers in as you need. So now moving on to the next portrait. Again, starting with the eyes, getting the darkest parts in. This is the second portrait is slightly more difficult than the first in the sense that you need to match the values of your first portrait in the second portrait. So if I was to make this one really dark now, and although it would still be, the shadows and everything would still be in the same place, if it was much darker than the other one, it just wouldn't sit right and it wouldn't look right. So this one is a bit more difficult, but again, you've just got to make sure that you're following the laws of light and looking at your reference image, but also paying attention to the values that you've already got down on your other portrait. And just following the same process, picking out the darks, filling the darks in first. You need to make sure that you don't outline the teeth when you draw those. You don't want piano keyboard teeth. So you need to make sure that you don't put massive gaps in between the teeth. And again, just working around, working the nose, and the nose again, because it wasn't right. And if it's not right, you just need to keep going back and reworking it until you get it right. It's not, nobody puts something down and it's perfect straight away. You just need to keep reworking it until you do get it right. And you will do eventually. If you're struggling, a handy tip is to take a picture of what you're drawing next to the reference image, and if you look on the picture you can usually see what's different pretty easily. So again, just working my way around, getting the darks in with the eyebrows, following the way the hairs grow, and then every time I put pencil down I smooth it out with either tissue or a cotton wool bud or a blending stump or a soft bristle brush. Anything will work, but it is much easier to get your values down and then blend it out to blend all the pencil marks away. But you don't want to blend too hard. You don't want to put massive pressure down because you'll damage the tooth of the paper and you won't get the value back off. So make sure you're not pressing too hard. And then again with the hair, following the way the hair grows, getting down the base so I know where everything's growing, where all my edge to values and everything need to be. And that's graphite powder again. Where I've got darks that need to be dark, I like to get a layer of graphite powder down as a base layer, and then building on top of that, I find the darks build up much easier if they've got that base layer down. So again, just working the darks, following the reference image, following the way the hairs are growing, always thinking about the way light works. I don't blend the hair as much as I blend skin. Sometimes I don't blend it at all. Sometimes it depends how much value change there is in there and how dark it is. Like blonde hair, I don't tend to blend blonde hair so much, but dark hair where it needs to be really dark, I do tend to blend more. But then at the end I will get the strands in to make it look more like hair and not just blended out. And again, just going back over it, using my eraser, picking out the highlights and blending it all in, bringing his hairline down into his face. You don't want it to look like a wig just sat on top. There'll always be a gradation into the face, especially as the hair is sat on top of the face, so there will be an edge to value with a gradation away from it. And now I can go back onto the other portrait and just bring the values up in that one so that they closer match this one. And again, just working my way. I started at the top, started his eyes, and then worked his face, his hair, working my way down. I tend to work top to bottom. I'll leave the bottom to last so that you're not smudging it everywhere when you're doing the rest. And so now that most of it is down, although I still need to do his clothes, at the moment it's just trying to get both portraits into some sort of balance with each other before I move on and get the clothes done. And then once the clothes are done, it will just be the final quick once over, just to make sure they're both as dark as they need to be and as smiley as they need to be, because obviously the shadows make up the smiles. And this is the most enjoyable part for me, is the final touches, the going over, and just this little bits here and there that just make your picture pop, make it really pop off the page. And again, with the clothes, just following the reference image, remembering how light works. And if you draw with that motto of everything gets darker where there's less light, and edge to values, remember your gradation, you can create really nice drawings in a really short space of time, learning wise. It still takes time to actually draw them. Like this took me at least 30 hours. But then when you stand back at the end of it and you see what you've drawn, it's worth every minute of it. It's very satisfying. So again, just going over, getting it all in balance. I decided that their faces were a bit too bright, so I'm going to go over, once I finish his clothes, go over and get some more value in their faces. And yeah, this is the fun part where you get to make tiny little adjustments and just finish it off into the point where you're happy. It's where all the fruits of your labour will come to fruition. So again, just going over, keeping everything in balance, and then going over again with my tissue. You can see how smooth the tissue makes the skin tones. It really does make it so much nicer. So it's really important that you understand how light works, and you bear that in mind with whatever you're drawing. And yeah, you will make some masterpieces, I promise you. So that's it from me. Thanks for watching. Any comments or questions, please do post below. Make sure you subscribe, and I will be back with the next one. Thanks, guys.